I got Dr. Bridge Bombi for the, excuse me, I had something caught in my throat, for the Centric Health sponsored segment. We have come so far with Dr. Bombi in discussing this coronavirus and the pandemic. Yesterday, I saw on one of the networks, they said that 71% of the people in the city of San Francisco had received at least one shot, and that San Francisco, of all the largest cities in the state, may be the first to reach herd immunity. I think that's significant. We'll check it with Dr. Bridge Bombi here right now. Dr. Bombi, welcome to the show. How are you, my friend?
I'm rested, Richard. How are you?
Good. We missed you last week. You took a few days off. I hope you had a good time, sir. Yeah.
Yes, I was in Tahoe. We enjoyed pretty a whole spectrum of weather. It snowed. It was sunny. It was cloudy. It was beautiful.
You do skiing up there?
No, the slopes were closed. Mostly hiking.
Okay. Ooh, that's beautiful hiking. Hey, can we start off with what's going on in India? It's just hard for me to view the problems they're having over there and put it in perspective of where the vaccines are, how far some countries have come, how far some countries haven't come. I was under the impression that India had access to, I thought, maybe some, if not the U.S. vaccines, but the Chinese and Russian vaccines early on. And when I read these accounts in India, it sounds like what we were seeing in New York a year ago. Can you explain to me exactly why they're having such issues right now?
India was a conundrum in the first wave of coronavirus, and it's a conundrum in the second wave in opposite ways. The first time it happened, it seemed like India, with not enough resources, the virus probably will run through the population and it will overwhelm the situation. What the government did at the time was enforce strict lockdowns and curfews. So they were able to sidestep the first round of infections by eliminating the contact between the virus and the vulnerables. But that success was misinterpreted as something unique to that part of the world, that somehow in Southeast Asia, people have had previous exposure to similar viruses, and thus they have immunity. So a myth was created that the virus doesn't have the impact that it has had on the Western Hemisphere, on the richer parts of the world. So that myth got ripped to pieces in the second go-around because it lulled the country into complacency. The religious festivals were allowed to happen at a mass scale. The rallies were held at a mass scale. Mm-hmm. So there was an illusion that somehow we, in that part of the world, are somewhat safe compared to the Western part of our humanity. And that myth got exposed to the detriment of a lot of people who are suffering at a mass scale. Also, they miscalculated the initial infection. There was an estimate that certain areas had seropositivity, implying that people have been affected and they have acquired immunity up to 40 or 50%. In retrospect, that number seems very suspect. So three things. One, the lockdowns worked initially. Two, the lockdowns enforced a misinformed notion that somehow there is an increased immunity in people in that part of the world. Three, the seropositivity was a false number that further reinforced the notion that people are immune, thus they can't be reinfected. All those notions have been destroyed. What happened is when virus is given an opportunity to replicate in endless manner, it comes up with evolutionary tools which can haunt the whole humanity again. So, as Richard, we have previously discussed, the mutations or the evolutionary pressures on virus compel it to work around the immunity. If there is no immunity, then everybody is exposed similarly. There is no evolutionary pressure on a pathogen to change its course. But when immunity is coming up in its path, there's an evolutionary pressure on the virus to change. So because the hodgepodge of immunity and lack of immunity compels the virus to change. So that's where the trouble lies, that there could be mutants or variants that not only have a minor change in its genetic material that can create challenges from immunity perspective, but a whole new pathogen can evolve.
Oh, God.
So if you have, for instance, if you have an immunocompromised person and they have dual virus infection, the two viruses can commingle and they have what's called genomic reassortment and create a new threat. And similarly, we know that the COVID-19 is able to infect minks and other animals. When the virus jumps from humans to animals, it can acquire what's called adaptive immunity, in which it can have a genetic shift in its structure and reimpose in humanity as a novel threat. So the occurrence and the prevalence of infection in India, in South Asia, in South America, is a threat to the humanity all over again, because if you don't put all the fires out, we put no fire out.
We're talking to Dr. Bridge Bombi. I'm going to make sure I have this straight because you really scared me. You were talking about, particularly among immune compromised people, that you could have co-infections. Are you saying that a person could have two different strains of the virus at the same time?
Exactly. So if you have, it's like a cauldron. It's a mixing vessel in which two viruses can exchange their genomic material and come up with a new pandemic, possible novel virus. The fact, Richard, here is the thing: we have 8.8 some billion people in this universe, on this planet. I don't know if it's in the universe, but at least on this planet. Every time we have COVID infection, we have trillions of copies of the virus in a single human being. Oh. So the possibilities that somehow an interaction can occur in a way that's malevolent to humanity is not zero. It can happen.
Wow. Well, tell me, in India, they underestimated, they thought that maybe there was some resistance to the virus that wasn't. But in India, do you have the same kind of natural reluctance to get a vaccine that you do in the United States because of either religious reasons, political reasons, cynicism that the government doesn't know what it's doing, or whatever? Do you have that same kind of resistance in India that you do here?
At a lesser scale. The two things are, one, the American individualism. American individualism, we all like to express ourselves, sometimes for the sake of it, to be different. So American individualism is a great thing, but it's a virus-friendly attribute. In India and in that part of the world, there's more compliance. People listen to the science. People listen to the authority. Here we have a little more, should I say, belligerent or individual attitude towards that. Mm-hmm. So there is a reluctance, but that component hasn't come into play because the vaccine is not available. People are lining up for the possibility of vaccine, but it's not there yet. And then you asked me about the options of vaccination in India. India actually, along with China, is a pharmacy of the world. But they, because they were so complacent about the prospects of the virus doing any damage to them, they actually elected to ship most of the vaccines to the rest of the world, and also they shifted most of the oxygen to the rest of the world. They didn't think it was coming. They were blindsided by complacency, and that's not a condonable virtue. That's criminal offense against the people of India by the government of India.
Well, is the government paying is there a political fallout? Is the government paying a political price for this over there now?
I don't think in that part of the world there are multiple factors that come into play: the populism, the religion, the caste, a lot of things. There is a saying in India, Richard, people don't cast their vote; they vote their caste.
Okay.
So there's some affinities that are oblivious to the fact, like in the U.S., but the constituencies are bigger, and I don't think it wrecks the government, but it certainly corrodes it.
Yeah, right. You know, through all of this, can you speak a little bit what you see in California? There was a report yesterday that California is now probably doing better than any other states in this country with it. And is there a danger of us becoming complacent, or have we reached a point that we are now we're nearing the saturation point? When you get, like I mentioned, San Francisco, the 71% of the people, I'm not sure how much better we can do for that. What do we need? What is the secret number for herd immunity still that we're looking at? Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful thing. San Francisco has been much maligned for reasons they have merited, but you should also give them the applause when they succeed. And Frisco is one of my favorite towns, so I'm biased towards it. Not the homelessness, which I think is a political and a national slur that needs to be attended to in an effective manner, not with slogans, but with substance. San Francisco was the first city that enforced lockdowns. They had the most aggressive mitigation measures, and they had the most compliant population that is receptive to vaccination. As you said, 70% have taken the first shot. I don't know the number, but like almost 50% have been fully vaccinated. And even if you extend it beyond the city itself, to the greater metro, is 4.7 million people, 60% have had at least one shot.
That's amazing.
So
yeah.
that's house on the hill. That's the shining light. Mm-hmm. So San Francisco has done something, and their success hopefully will. Do I believe in their success? Of course. So till today, Richard, there isn't any evidence that the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines have shown any susceptibility to the variants, in the sense that they don't put the people in the hospital. They don't. The virus doesn't kill those vaccinated humans. So it's very encouraging that the vaccination rate is so much higher in that part of the world. And I understand it's liberal, and that liberal acceptance to the vaccine, in this case, may be a shining light for the rest of the country, guys. Well, let's do politics outside the vaccine. Get the vaccine first. Let's live to fight. Dead people don't fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Bombi, when you talk about that, so far at least, that the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, if I heard you correctly, you said are showing good resistance to some of the new strains of the virus. Does that indicate that we may not need booster shots that are I know that at least Moderna has been, there's been some stories on Moderna looking at a follow-up, kind of a booster vaccine that would might be more targeted at some of the newer strains of this. But if they're already showing resistance for it, where do you think we might go, and what might the citizens of this country expect in terms of, do they have to get a booster, or is this going to become a yearly event?
Let me make sure that I heard it correctly.
Okay.
So what I said was that the vaccine is resistant to the mutants. So the vaccine the immunity from the vaccine extends against all the prevailing mutants, as far we know.
Okay.
And the CEO of Moderna today said, in his opinion, it's likely that people will need booster. And it's conceivable and a likely thing, but it's speculative. It's also conceivable that the immunity will extend for a year, 2, or longer.
Wow.
Because the SARS-1 virus, based on the T-cell data, is lasting for 18 years so far. So we don't know if it's a nascent immunity or durable immunity. But we have the tools to revaccinate people as long as they're willing to vaccinate.
Yeah.
Also, Richard, what has happened is there is a whole lot of pipeline of vaccines. There are another 90 vaccines that are gone into human trials. There's a company called CureVac in Germany that also, BioNTech, the Pfizer vaccine is based in Germany, made by a Turkish couple in Germany. So the CureVac is a similar company in Germany. That's messenger RNA-based vaccine that hopefully will come out in the next week or two. But the advantage is it's not exposed. It's a second-generation messenger RNA. It's not exposed to the drastic needs of temperature lowering. It can be kept at the regular refrigerator temperature, not even frozen temperature. So this, if that data is conducive to it holds up against the virus, I think we are in a much better position. And similarly, there are a whole lot of vaccines that are in the pipeline. I think the demand and supply equation eventually will settle.
Yeah.
It will. The final arbitration would be, would you take the vaccine or not?
Yeah, absolutely, man. The story is going to continue on here. Dr. Bobby, would you entertain a question from my colleague, Mr. Flores? It may not be vaccine related, but he asked if he could ask you a question here.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, JR, go for it.
All right, Dr. Bobby, I thank you. A couple weeks ago, you gave me some consultation on my daughter on the air about her COVID positive result, and I wanted to thank you on the air for that. But myself, I have this back issue, and I'm not sure. It started a couple weeks ago, and it feels like a vibration in my lower back. I at first thought it was my phone going off in my pocket, and it turns out it wasn't. And so over the weekend when I was out at the park, I had looked down for some reason, and as I looked down, I felt the vibration again across my lower back and down into my legs. It's not a sharp pain, it's just a vibration. And so I was wondering what the heck is going on. So every time I look down towards my feet, I can feel it.
Two things, JR. First, I'm very happy about your daughter because children are the epicenter of our existence. Anything that happens to them consumes our existence. So I'm very happy that your daughter is doing well. And secondly, you live through the vibrations. They're good for you. That means you're alive.
That's why we love Dr. Bombi around here.
Do I have an answer? No. Most likely when you bend over, what happens is the blood flow is restricted to the heart. So you have a transient situation where the restriction in the blood flow is impacted and causes low blood pressure, and you may have those feelings. But I think it would be better if you drop by and I give you a better answer in person.
Okay.
Wow. All right. There you go. There you go. All right, Dr. Bridge. I still think the phone's back in his pocket. He just doesn't know it's there, Dr. Bombi. Yeah. I know this. I know this guy. All right, Dr. Bridge Bombi. Thank you, sir, and I'll be talking to you next week. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you very much, guys.
News Talk 96.1 and AM 1180 KER.